we're on. Okay, looks like we're on. Yeah. All right, let me just play the intro real quick. How's it going, everybody? This is our third show of the day. We're going to meet a new friend, JoAnne Palladino. Let me just get set up here. It looks like we have a bit of a issue. Looks okay. Looks okay. All right. Let's see. All right. I'm gonna read a little bio from JoAnne Palladino. Since the 1990s, JoAnne Palladino experienced a number of awakenings. Her body's vibration was rewired to prepare her to connect with and bring through the refined vibration of universal knowledge of light language, stripping away karmic memories, experiencing past lives, releasing dense energy, and facing fears that debilitated her was in essence a dying process of the old way of existing to be rebirthed as a way shower for others. Her rebirth awakening experience revealed her hidden gifts as a healer and to be present with compassion and wisdom with other souls who are going through their own awakening. When JoAnne spontaneously started channeling the light language, a word that continued to be spoken was Shmaya. At the time, JoAnne was not aware of the holy meaning of this ancient word. She was informed of the sacred meaning of the word. She made the decision to name the sacred energy language Shmaya. The guidance of JoAnne received from Spirit is that Shmaya, the divine frequency of love and grace, is here to help souls evolve and to embody complete and unconditional love and self-acceptance, which would greatly influence the awakening on this planet. She's had the honor to work with clients individually and in groups nationally and internationally for close to 30 years. Here we go. So I'm going to pull her up on the screen now. We're trying out this new format. It doesn't seem to be working very well. We're getting slaughtered on the algorithms on both Facebook and YouTube, but the replays will be available. We are live right now on this page on Facebook and on YouTube. If you could help us, if these shows resonate, please share it to your page or to one group. And thank you for the continued love and support and contributions that keep us going every day. Let's get JoAnne up here and get to know her a little bit. Well, there you go.
Hi.
Hello, JoAnne. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
It's good to feel your energy. It's good to meet you.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you and be with you.
Yeah. Thank you for honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us today.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite.
You have a story in your bio that sounds very familiar after 1,800 episodes, primarily from women that not quite like yourself, many of them not stepping out for 10, 15, 20 years, but doing the work, doing the grid work, connecting and anchoring sacred wisdom into the planet in solitude and without any notoriety and total anonymity. But I think that divine feminine mother goddess frequency is starting to come out now. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. I'm not sure where to start with someone like you, but to use the old safe question that I used to use a lot on these shows, which is, when did you wake up?
I still am. I every morning I rub my eyes and go, what is new today? You know.
You're the second person that's answered that way in 1,800 episodes, and I think that's the best answer.
Yeah, it's, someone I worked with in a session, this person was really annoyed. When are people going to start waking up?
Yeah.
He said to me. And I looked at him and I was like, well, that's not necessarily a statement from someone who is awake, because we are on our path, and not to judge where we are, in the journey, and who says you should be further and I am further than you, or any of that. But boy, what we're in the midst of such a vast opportunity to wake up, but to, answer the question, I feel like I was tapped on the shoulder, and I described it as I was thrown into the dryer and I kept tumbling and tumbling to wake up. So it was mid 40s. I feel that was, somewhat mid, not quite yet, but midlife, where the path at the time was corporate, climbing the ladder, success. That was my focus. That was the importance. And in 97 is when the universe like tapped me on the shoulder and went, no, we have other plans for you.
Yeah.
And really, and I wasn't, that was not my path. The metaphysical world was not, there wasn't any personal introspective work going on. I was still eating Burger King, not McDonald's. Burger King was my favorite. So so it again, like a forcing, which I feel that's what we're in now, sort of this level of being forced to be with and look really at ourselves. I looked at myself so differently and put so much in perspective of what's truly important, what is important. So so that's when it started in 1997, last century. It's a lifetime ago. It's,
we've had a few people on the show that got that call in the 90s, but isn't it interesting to, especially if you take the linear part of it out, it's really all happening at the same time, but because 1997 or 2012, I mean, that's really not even a blink of an eye. But that it's the personal introspection that drives that awakening. Some people have apparitions come in, or higher self comes in, but there always seems to be in these stories, in that moment, that forcing, like you were talking about, where we're forced into that universal isolation, and we start to look at ourselves, who we really are, what we really are, and what we're really a part of. Did you have any traumas that kind of led up to this self-introspection and awakening in 97?
Yeah. So when you just asked that question, how interesting, what showed up was my birth.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first trauma, of near death, though I did not. And my mother, they were like, it's both of them. One of them will survive, but here we are. And my mama just passed. She was 90, over 90. Wow. So that was a trauma. And I feel there's still residual from that trauma. of the survival. I mean, it was truly survival, the cord around the neck. And, you know, any movement was like, oh, no, I can't, no, I can't go, I can't go any further. And that has been, I feel like an important teaching in me, because here I hit the throat. And you mentioned, you know, the feminine women, of how we've been so suppressed here and not able to express the fear of the, you know, the victimization of that, and what that's been caused. So I feel that was truly my first trauma, coming into the planet, you know, saying here, you know, here I am. And a lot of fear. I mean, I was very entrenched in fear-based, you know, through my life. And so, yeah.
So in 97, is that when this sacred language came in? Was it right away, or did it happen later?
Yeah, the language started, I would say around 2011. So right before 2012, I was, and 1997 was setting the foundation for not really understanding what was ahead of me. And I said introspective work, that didn't happen for a bit, because that experience, which was traumatic in its own way, really just paralyzed me on all levels. You know, had to leave my job, and I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't talk, I couldn't, you know, I couldn't exist. And then, you know, when I started, I love the word resurrection, you know, when I was resurrecting from the dismantling, which is happening right now on the planet. You know, that's when, you know, I made choices that it wasn't my intellect making the choices. So leaving my six-figure job, leaving my spouse, selling my home. And if that was my ego, I wouldn't be making a move, because I was so entrenched in fear. But it was the soul speaking to me, which I didn't realize it then, that I was like, I don't know, I just have to do this. Well, you crazy, I don't know. It just, I can't stay where I am, but I don't know why and how I'm going to survive, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, I started saying a few months ago, as more and more people told their stories on this show, it sounds like if it doesn't make sense, do it. And if you're doing things that don't make sense, you're probably on the right track. And that seems to be common with folks like yourself. So from 97 to 2011, you were on the path. You'd made some choices. Obviously, you were being guided. What type of work were you getting into? What type of experiences were you getting into? Were you having any particular faces of the universe that were coming through to you or connecting with you?
Yeah, I feel the most, where I really felt a challenging shift was the form. The body was really breaking down. And that's where I feel sort of the old self, in a way, needed to be put to bed, you know, just not necessarily to be buried, but to be honored and to move on. So yeah, a lot of personal growth work, where it was, you know, one of the modalities is voice dialogue, where you work with a facilitator and you dialogue with the different aspects or parts or voices within yourself. And you do it from a place of being the observer of that aspect of you and giving it voice, letting it speak. So it was a beautiful way to sort of step away from the egoic turmoil
Yeah.
and seeing it from a much broader perspective. So that was pretty integral. But, you know, past life, yoga became my first spiritual practice. That's when, because I was at a point where I was okay to start moving my body. And the practitioner, I called him my Zen master. He was 85 years old, Dr. Jack.
Wow.
80, he was amazing. You know, he was my Zen teacher. I mean, not that he was Jewish, but I call him my Zen teacher, you know. But I said, it's time for me to move my body. What can I do? And he suggested yoga. And again, I'm like, okay, you know, and that opened the true spiritual aspect within me. Like for, I don't know how long, I felt like I had this bright sun in my heart. I just like was walking around going, oh my God, I feel this beautiful energy, you know? So that was pretty integral, you know, as well. And of course, you know, meditation was part of the, you know, resting. I really like that word too. It's like allowing yourself to rest in the turmoil that we're in, and you know, and be that observer and notice what appears and what shows itself. But had beautiful, you know, guides, you know, through the years. And the next sort of wake up, I'll call it, was in 2011. And it's usually my wake up periods last for like two, you know, they last a long time for me. And I started, and again, not knowing what this was all about, of sitting in front of a mirror in the middle of the night and seeing faces and crawling on the floor and puking in a bucket, but it was all dark energy, you know, all of these cathartic experiences. And I was introduced to a book. It's a channel book called The Way of Mastery. It's the voice of Yeshua, and it's lessons. And that, and I still am a student of those teachings, and work with my clients with those teachings. So that was integral as well. And then the language just started coming through spontaneously after, again, I felt like another purging of what was still in here and what I felt was true. And it was, okay, next round, here we go.
Wow.
And that's when the language of our cosmic knowledge started to come in, and naming it Shemaya, you know.
Shemaya. The
Yeah.
you know, and the importance of these conversations to me is, you know, again, this is all happening so quickly,
Mm,
but so many of the things that happen to people like you are happening to people now.
yeah.
Like, for instance, the light language coming in, even though you had a number of years to prepare and obviously had divine connection, divine episodes and such, did it freak you out when it first happened?
It made me a little crazy, I have to say, because it came through the energetic transmission came through whenever it wanted to. So I could be in a grocery store, I could be out to dinner, it could be in the middle of the night. And it had quite an effect on this body, because after it came through, it was so refined into this form. I literally was drooling, you know, I couldn't move. And then I was able to get myself back and go, okay, I'm back. You know, what was that? But the piece here, again, on the egoic level, is, what am I saying? What is this all about? I wanted to know.
Yeah.
And I knew there was a communication, but I wanted to put words to no words. And it's, you know, so that was a piece. And again, I found beautiful teachers that here in Denver, because I was in New York when it first all started, my awakening, and moved to Denver. But that have been through this, and are you know, have a spiritual presence in their own right. So I was guided to work with people, which really, really helped me. And the teaching, which is still with me today, and it's really good for people to be with as we're as whole planet Earth is getting shook up, is to not know and be at ease with not knowing.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
and be at peace with that. So it wasn't about me intellectually understanding what was being said, but it was the quality of the vibration of the frequency that was coming through.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew it was it was changing people, and it was, changing me.
Yeah.
So that
I can relate to that. My wife and I, we clasp hands every night when we go to bed, and we connect, and then whatever comes comes. But last night, after a few things were channeled, we just remained quiet till we went to sleep. But mine went on to a journey of what you're describing, and it went back to 2011 because that's when I had my reawakening. And it was like the movie was playing, like, that people talk about your life flashes. And the thing that really struck me was there was a tremendous amount of trauma, as most people experienced.
yeah.
There was that forced universal isolation, that gift, that burden that was a blessing in retrospect. Um, but what amazed me in the transmission was the fact, because I was literally taken back to that time, that these divine episodic uh, situations and the divine intervention and the apparitions and all that stuff that nobody saw but me was what guided me. Like, and I mean, I lived on the streets for the first 2 years by my own choice, which was, I was guided to do, which made no sense. But all the crazy stuff that happened, and I'm sure you experienced it, especially if you had light language coming in at dinner with friends. But the being called crazy and being being suggested to be examined, institutionalized, and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And I kept thinking, wow. And I kept saying, wow, Todd, the human aspect, Todd, you listened and you just kept going. And I just remember that where you're telling us. So I
Yeah.
can relate to that. And I think that's another important message for anyone who might see this live or on the replay
Yeah.
is
It's
trust that voice, right?
trust the voice and not feel it has to have a story.
Yeah. Yes.
You don't
Yes.
have to, oh, here's the voice. Why is the voice here? Why is it coming now? All of those things that, again, the ego wants to hold on to, keeps us away from the true guidance
Yeah.
that's going, okay, do this. Well, it's like a distraction,
Yeah.
I guess is a good way of
Exactly.
putting it. It's a
Well,
distraction.
and that's a very good point because it's powerful. You have these things happen and it's powerful. How could your ego not be challenged, But, I figured it out pretty early on that, what's the difference in a trauma that I can't detach from
Mhm.
versus, Jesus appearing in the trees, which is how mine started. If I didn't detach from that, it was, it had the same potential and probability of pulling me off, let's say 0 point as
Yeah.
a trauma that I wouldn't let go of. So I do think that more and more people, as the years have gone by, have talked about how they embodied these seemingly external faces of the universe and actually came to the understanding that they're really just dealing with the universe, basically.
And try to explain that.
Like, well, we can't.
Right. We
So much it's,
can.
yeah, and that's another thing too. You get this information, and like my wife gets verbatim, just straight up, right, in and out. But
Yeah.
as we try to post it or try to do a video on it or tell someone about it, it just gets diluted because it's
Yeah.
really above language. It's above
Yeah.
the human language.
That's why Hmm. I have so much, I have like this connection with the language of light, that it's sort of this allowance, and there there doesn't need to be the story behind it.
Yeah.
And it how odd it is, it's like I am more at home speaking light language than this language.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really, um, that's our original way of communicating, and of course, and not saying anything is our original way of communicating. And you shared more and more people are doing this. Like there's a remembering
Yeah.
that's happening, and it's just going to continue to blossom.
Yeah. It's
I
it's a
feel.
lot like the energy of out of body experience or near death experience. I've
Mhm.
I guess I've had them. A lot of people have, and even dimensional experiences,
Yeah.
where you're in that energy, and it is very familiar, and it's so pure and loving. Like the last thing you want to do is come out of it, you
Hmm.
know. So
Hmm.
I get that. Now you said earlier that when it started, it would just come whenever it would come.
Yeah.
Does it still operate that way, or do you connect consciously, or both?
Yeah, no, I call it that we dance together gracefully. So that lasted sort of that, a very abrupt, I'm coming in, um, did stop after I had a better understanding of the energetic effect that it's going to have on me,
Mm,
and be able to take it in differently.
yeah,
So I know, because Shemai is here, I feel the energy.
yeah,
Um, and how to take it in, that it's sort of like not a direct hit, but broaden it. And I just sense it, like, oh, it's here. How do you know? I know, I feel it. So where I used to be um, completely exhausted and had to lay down for an hour, now it is part of who I am.
it
There
sounds like
isn't
you're.
a.
Yeah, it sounds like your body's acclimated or evolved. You kind of made mention in the bio, and I don't remember the exact words, but almost like you were. Well, you did say you were being prepared
Mm,
for serving in the capacity that you
mm,
do. And
yeah.
it just kind of
Mm,
jumped out at me, and even with what you said, because a part of this transition that we're calling ascension is the body, biologically, scientifically, whatever you want to call it, transforming from carbon to light body. Have
yeah.
you had, in your own right, in your own knowing, have you had any evidence or any knowing that your body's been changing?
Um, yes, and my body is is the one that gets beat up the most. I
Yeah.
feel through all of this. And I don't know, a couple of years ago, and it was through Shemai or messages that were coming through. It's like, oh, this is about changing my DNA. And I'm like, where the hell did that come? Like, what's
Mm,
that all about? And I'm like, okay. And then, a week later, I start seeing articles, and I was like, wow, that is what is going on. So I feel it. hmm, I feel it more in my compassion
mm,
for myself, having compassion of like, okay, you're going to get through this. It's all fine. And then for others, like I could cry very easily right now because it is so heart centered.
yeah.
This shift, it's very heart centered, and less I am here, and dropping down to this. I call this is the center of our physical
Yeah.
universe. It's our
Yeah.
sun. It's our guiding post, if you will. And the language, and because there's codes that come through, not all the time, but at times it's very specific to help change or shift or awaken, actually really awaken the DNA. Now, do I know what that all means scientifically? No. Do I trust it? Yes. Yes, I do. I
Yeah.
don't. So yeah, that's that level of
And
change.
that's now you've been a practitioner for a number of years.
Um, 2002
Wow.
is
Okay.
when I started putting people, people were on the table, and now there is no need for a table, and that's been for a number of years too with remote sessions. It's like I'm able to hear, see, and feel their energy, and I never saw their face, it doesn't matter. So
And
yes.
and so yeah, and I noticed that toward the end of last year and this year, in talking to practitioners, two things. One, they talked about how their clientele was increasing, and uh, with people that were just waking up, like they were being
Mhm,
drawn to them. And
mhm.
two, that their modalities and processes, like you just talked about,
Yeah.
started to evolve and change,
Yes.
and even dropping modalities. Uh, and a lot of them talk about none of my sessions are the same.
No.
They walk in, I open my field, they open their field to accept, the session, and it kind of, you just spontaneously figure out, everybody's got a customized session basically. Does any
Yeah.
of that resonate? And if you had, the clientele been like? Has it changed any?
Yeah. Nothing is linear in this level of work. And there isn't a textbook, there isn't a checklist of like, oh, today we're going to cover this, this, and this. So it is very fluid. It's the ability of trusting of, gee, I used to do that, and now why this? Okay, and you go with it. So my through the years, I call it extending my gifts has truly shifted, and it's shifting right now with
Mm,
me choosing a number of months ago of not really. I don't have the calling to see people on the table anymore or have people
yeah.
on the table. And that has been calling for a while now, but a few months ago is like, okay, it's okay not to have the physical form, and trusting that those who have been working with me for a while and new people, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And look where we are now. That's really what's going on, isn't it? Everything is remote, and it fills my soul in a much deeper way
Yeah.
by doing remote. And as far as the souls that are being called, I feel there's a gamut. There are the newbies, and there are very seasoned that I am honored that they're even coming to work with me or asking
Yeah.
for a session. I'm like, oh my God, how beautiful, because I hold them in a regard and respect their gifts, their spiritual gifts as, as healers. So, and I'm in a group, we're just starting to clarify our purpose, but I'm feeling it's to really support the future light workers for planet Earth.
Yeah.
We've been setting the foundation, and those that are very gifted, and like you mentioned early on, it's like that haven't gone out yet or haven't trusted yet,
Yeah.
that we're have a level of wisdom, at 60 something years old. We have a level of wisdom and experience that personally I've crashed and burned numerous times, um, and last year was one of those years of crashing and burning, and having a different perspective or a deeper level of consciousness to say, okay, this is necessary. It's really hard, and there's a real beauty in it. So So what a time for us.
Yeah.
It's such an
Isn't it
opportunity.
though? I mean, isn't there an excitement, with what's happening?
Mm.
I mean, you
So,
know,
yes.
so much of our waking up or reawakening or remembering or whatever you want to call it for so many people. I mean, mine's only been 9 years. Yours has been over 20 years. Morgan's
Yeah.
20 years. Uh, has been very lonely. I mean, it's been like everything that we're seeing collectively now is what we experienced individually, which
Yeah.
was detaching, minimizing our lifestyles by force or flow, and so many things that you can kind of see now that we were being prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't know what I was being prepared for, you know, but again, years ago, because Shemaya's been here since 2011, I guess. The message was that this presence is here, this communication is to help awaken humanity, And you mentioned excitement, that I too feel this level of excitement.
Yeah,
And with your permission,
yeah,
for Shemaya to express that excitement.
absolutely, absolutely. Go for it.
And inviting who is on now, those who will join us later, that again, it's not the intellectual of what's being said, but it is that vibration that is being transmitted. Kosomaito shomero to palalo. Kosimia miana to shoba, ati konumia semiana to kolebe atachinidia. Kotoba amieto o miesiradina at koishiba amiano, fiapiata to shibo. Pero to mia, utumia, e otopta. This is about opening the heart, the excitement of the truth of who we are. Like JoAnne shared, it is the center of our solar system, and how the whole earth is being like a shake-up call, a wake-up
Yeah,
call kind of thing. Masotoy maratorio para te mesigara shoma atira amar otom ama.
yeah. Very cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it reminds me of, you know, we spent so much of our pre-awakening, pre-remembering period, uh, well, because that's the way it rolled, was seeing the dark end of the spectrum, I guess.
Mm, mm,
But if we've learned anything, we've learned that, you know, for every degree of that side of the fence or that side of the 0 point, there's something on the opposite side, the polarity that's available to us.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's I think something that's really been supported by the universal energy in the last few months is that you can see the evidence of our work. It's
Mm,
it's
mhm,
it's got something to do with this new vibration of instant manifestation.
mhm.
Where we're doing stuff like you were saying a minute ago. You got the information out of the blue that you were restructuring your DNA, and the next thing you know, you find a few articles on it.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
no,
There might be a coincidence in and of themselves or look like one, but when you line them all up together, you can see the cookie crumb trail home.
yeah. Well, it's what an opportunity for us. I guess that's where the excitement is. Um, for those who have been on the path, to ramp it up even more, and for me, there's a different level of, I'm going to use the word importance. I don't know if that's the right word, but a different level of importance to, to put my hand out for the next generation, if
Yeah,
you will,
yeah,
you know, and, and an opportunity for us to deepen our consciousness
yeah,
and to help those that are just like the spark. And the spark, it seems, and what I'm seeing in clients too, that there are spontaneous awakenings happening.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
living in the pure essence of love. Like, oh my, I can't, it's like, oh my God, everything is, everything is joy, everything is love. So it's happening a lot quicker for
Yes.
those now, there's a
Yeah.
quickening definitely taking place.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And I've had practitioners come on here and say, I had one of them said I had an 80-year-old lady walk in the door and said she had a Kundalini experience. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I haven't had any, sensuous feelings in years. What is
Yeah.
this?
What? Where'd that come
Right.
from? Say
Now,
what?
have you, some people, I mean, everybody's different, the universe
Yes.
speaks to all of us differently in the way that we can handle it. There seems to be, as time's gone on, more of a galactic kind of frequency, star family. Do you have any connections like that that have popped up, or you always had
Yeah.
them? Or
I feel them. I see them. I can't say this is where I am from, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Oh, it might be Palladium, like I don't know, So that
I
has
think
never been
I
like
think we're all I
solid
think
for
we're all
me.
mutts. I think we're all
Yeah,
just mutts
it's
here.
like, and what I do resonate with is Atlantis.
Yeah,
I do Thoth. I resonate with, because a number of years ago, I was at this retreat with Judy Satori, the light language maven, and there was a meditation, and she said, "Close your eyes. Remember the last thing, you know." The last piece of your existence, and Thoth showed up and Atlantis showed up, and it was immediate, and I was like, what is that? I didn't even know who Thoth was, and I was like,
yeah,
why is it a man and a bird's head? And, I didn't know. And so I do feel like there was a place there for
yes, of
me,
course.
and being in the caves with, Yeshua's followings too. I feel very like a truth in that.
Yeah, like the
Um,
scenes, like these scenes.
yeah. And I feel like, oh my gosh, the galactic community is very excited. This is like a felt quality.
Yeah,
The angelic realm, they are more present, or they're present in a different way
right.
because we're ready.
Yeah,
Like, oh boy, now they're ready,
yeah,
And so I do sense that. Again, I've had visitations, through the years. And so again, none of it is separate, it's all,
no. And I think that's another important subject, because there are people having visitations.
yeah,
A lot of the time it happens in the bedrooms. I know in the
yeah,
bedroom when you're laying down. Morgan and I, it's happened
yeah,
quite a few times. I heard from my daughter a few weeks ago. She had one with 3 light beams.
yeah.
But again, this is part of the transition. It's part of the veil dropping, or whatever you want to call it. Uh, how how apparent were those visitations? Were they strictly like were they clairaudient, clairsentient? Did you actually see things?
The first, well, the first recall was when I was probably 13 or 14 and saw a UFO in
Yeah,
Highland, New York, in the middle of the apple orchards at dusk. It was very quick. I wasn't afraid, which I thought was kind of interesting, but
yeah,
ball of light from the sky hanging out in the apple orchards, hovering, and I kept looking away, and I was like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? And it was there, and then gone. Um, another time, these are just ones that I remember that I'm sharing
Yeah.
here, that again, it was at night, and it was, I would describe them more spirit-like,
Yeah.
a lot of them.
Yeah.
And one just sort of laid next to me, you know, and that freaked me out. I was
That would have freaked me
afraid.
out.
I was afraid.
Yeah.
And uh, images, I want to say they're more more Palladian looking, I
Uh-huh.
guess, is
Yeah.
how I would describe it. And much of it is vision, you know, they come into vision, and sort of the hierarchy galactic council, it's very much felt
Yeah.
quality. So there's
Wow.
different ways that are,
Far out.
yeah.
And I think that's important, though. It's important for people to hear this stuff because, even in certain light worker communities, we don't hear enough about it. We hear about the skills and abilities, and that's important, but the experiences are so important, more than any lessons we can be given. I mean, there's just something about people, and I've seen people write it in the comments section many, many times. Oh my God, I thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me that you were visited by dragons or whatever the
Yes.
case is.
Yes. Dragons. Yeah.
Has there been any specific energy or energies or entities or energy complexes that have been coming around in 2020, or has your connection increased, or do you feel anything different with 2020?
Um, well, this was back in the fall of 2019. I sensed that 2020 was going to be a hell of a year.
Mhm.
Excuse my language.
Understatement.
Understatement.
This
It's
is
like,
Soulogy. You can say whatever you want to.
yeah, it's like, I don't, it was like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't know, but it's going to be a hell of a year. And I see this as, this just click of the clock. It was, December 31st, 2019. And then it went dink. And it
Yeah.
was January 1st, 2020. And
Yeah.
it changed.
Didn't it?
Not that it was immediate, it was gradual. It was like, okay, here we are. So
Yeah, but I remember seeing more than one person. I don't want to exaggerate, but
no, it's all good.
there had to be at least three that put up memes, and I think one of them was like, "This is the longest year of my life, and it's only the 20th of January." Like, I think we knew before the end of January it was a totally different atmosphere.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to answer your question, I don't remember the whole question, but I sense and feel, and I think I shared just a bit ago, that the unseen world, and that means many, are closer than ever,
Yeah.
are available more than ever. I sort of use the joke, it's like they're right here. They're right at the tip of your nose.
Yeah.
So that is my inner knowing, or like I feel it, not necessarily I'm seeing them.
Yeah.
But it's like there's like it's time in a way, but it's still the beginning.
Yes.
Of this great change. And you mention like being alone, or oh, I'm glad you told me that, so it's important, I feel, for all of us to know that we are not alone, not just in the human aspect, but also the unseen realm.
Yeah.
That they are, gosh, again, I just feel this beautiful,
Yeah.
heartfelt of excitement that
Yeah.
we're here.
Yeah.
We're
We've gotten
here.
that. We've gotten that in several
Yeah.
times. Several
Yeah.
times we've gotten. I don't know how you would say it, but they're proud. They're like in awe. They're beyond proud. They're like in
Well,
awe of what we've done, how far we've come, how fast, and like how far are you going to do this? How far are you going to take this? You know?
yeah, it's I mean, the word that's coming up in the description is like we're their children.
Yeah.
You know, they've been watching and observing and a little disappointment, but we still love them. There's no judge,
Yeah.
unconditional love, you know. That's my, you know, what I try to fully embody for myself and extend to others is complete and unconditional love and self-acceptance, you know. So
Yeah.
that's how they're observing us. And they're like, my goodness, it's now, it is the time. And so I think it's interesting that they're proud. I think you use that word. Is that how you described
Yeah.
it? That they're
Yeah.
proud that
Yeah.
it's here.
I remember one time we connected and we went up into like a council or a big monad, you know, and we stepped to the center
Mm.
and we were going to kneel, but then they all kneeled, right?
Oh my
So
goodness, how
so that, you know
beautiful.
what I mean? So that's,
Oh,
and I've heard this from other people on this show, but I think yeah, I think we're doing yeoman's work. I think
yeah.
we've gone through a very dense experiences,
Yeah.
and we're transforming it, and
Yeah.
you can only go above the light as many degrees as you've been below it.
Yeah.
So we've all been below it. We've all
Yeah.
been down to the to the uh
I
the
mean,
abyss, I
that's,
guess.
yeah, that is such a beautiful image. Like I felt your words and felt the image, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but acknowledging of, you know, the level of devotion
Yeah.
as souls
Yeah.
that we did choose, because that keeps showing up loudly for me too. It's like, now's your time, baby. You
That's
know,
right.
here you go.
That's right.
And not to leave here to regret, disappoint, you know, you know, no self-criticism.
Yeah.
So, and those that are coming in now, these beautiful little beings that have this ancient wisdom, are they're different than when you and I came in, you know, and you
Yes.
could see it in
Absolutely.
their eyes, in their presence.
Absolutely.
Like it's just like, oh, you brave little.
I know. It's
And
like
they're going to be our teacher, you know, they're our
hey, I'm with
teachers.
you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, it's happening. And even, you know, my first grandkid, you know, he's over 4 months now, but he was 3 months old when I met him.
Oh,
And he was telepathing with me.
yeah,
You know, I was changing his diaper and he starts telling me, oh, we were on another planet together,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and then we've had people on that are, you know, that their babies begin communicating from the womb. You know, hey, I'm not just letting you know, I'm not going to school. You're not going to vaccinate me.
yes,
You know, you need to sell your car and and we're going to go on the road. And, you know, I know a couple of couples that the child is leading the way.
yes. Yeah,
So,
I'm getting chills as
yeah,
you're talking about this, because again, what you're sharing is what I've been feeling, and
yeah,
I don't have children, which is fine. That was a choice, but feel very connected to these younger people and the babies that are coming in, and I look at them in awe.
yeah,
You know, you know, I like I see it in them,
yeah.
of what they will bring, and like a sense of responsibility, I guess, is, you know,
Well, I think,
how can I
yeah.
support you? You know,
Yeah, I mean,
how
it's
can,
like they're like tuning forks. I mean, all you got to do is get around them. It changes everything.
yes.
So I don't want to run out of time, and I want to give you
Okay.
I want to give you an opportunity
Yes.
to you know, all of the above, if you want. I'm not really sure. You did a little bit of light language, but if you want to do a blessing or an activation or light
Mm,
language or have a message, or if there's some things you might want to announce with any of the work that you're doing and how we can find you.
Well, thank you for that offering. So I'll just share, people can reach out to me through my website, JoAnnePalladino.com. I'm on Facebook, so message me or whatever feels right. And I am holding a Shemaya gathering Thursday via Zoom. So that's open to anyone, and it's gifted. I'm not, charging anything like that. So yeah, individual sessions. And I have opportunities where people could get sort of a short direct hit, that they come in with a question, and the sessions are usually multidimensional. It's transmissions, it's energy healing, and guidance, wisdom. Yeah. So just to put that out there. So let's see what so this is about wisdom. That we all have it in us. It is innate. It is within our cosmic knowing. But do not forget the heart, the compassion, the combination, the marriage between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the marriage between them, which connects to the oneness. So this is a conversation to all that are listening, that it is in ancient wisdom, and who knows how old, but it was direct. It was bringing in with the compassion and the wisdom of, we could call it compassionate action, of having the tender heart, but being very direct at the same time. Yeah. Be aware, to be fearless and not get connected to the fear, be identified with it, sort of sucked in like a vacuum. So this is to really enliven the empowerment.
Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. Amazing, beloved sister. I'd love to collaborate with you down the road if you were open to it.
Lovely. Well, that was what a heartfelt offering, and I accept.
Yeah. We're like everyone else. We're going through some transformation and elevations and activations. And
yes.
Last couple of days have just been incredible.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah, we'll meet up down the road for sure. And I just want to say thank you again for sharing space with us, and
I am blessed
honoring us with your
and
presence.
Grateful.
I'm grateful too. You take care. All blessings to you and yours.
Peace.
Peace out. Bye-bye.
Bye.